video is brought to you by Letsynthesize Academy, the #1 place for practice-oriented courses for serious music producers.
Yo, the Lassen here, welcome to the new Synthesize Sunday episode. Last week I made a very nice lead sound, but today I want to show you how to make a very fat and atmospheric and filled with details intro like this. If you are curious, you can peep into this project on my Patreon and click here for my academy for awesome start to finish courses. But right now, let's jump into it. Okay, so let me show you the full breakdown. Okay, so this section, this whole breakdown, or it can be an intro or whatever, is crazy complex, so it contains lots of sounds. So I have two parts, an A and a B part. So the first part is basically just a sort of intro that prepares you for the main lead that I showed you last year, so if you want to check it, click here. So I'm talking about this guy. It's so cool because it sounds like a talking kind of lead. It's very complex noise or style lead. But the instrumentals and all the effects and lots of little percussion just fills up the space so well. And it's very complex, it's very fat, and you can find very tiny details every time you listen it. And this is my point, this is why I love to make very complex kind of stuff, to dig deep and always find new stuff in there. The first part, the main sound here is actually a loop, so I like to cheat sometimes. This is from a loop, this is how it sounds. So this is a loop coming from forward, the sample pack, and this is how it sounds. So what I did is I slowed it down a little by clicking here. It doubles the time and it makes a lot slower. Plus I had to put this into the key of the song, which is G. And I filtered the lows and added the reverb. And that is the main idea, I would say, that I used to build around the whole intro. So without that, it sounds a little empty. And in the blocky lead part, it's funny because at this part, as you can see, I pulled back the volume on it. You don't really miss it because I added so many instruments and sounds to that part of the intro that you don't really miss it. And you always need to be careful what you put there. You don't want to overdo it and just kill the main lead or the main instruments with other sounds. So this is why I pull back this main stuff and added even more effects. The other thing is the call and response kind of thing that you always need to keep in mind when you build complex intros. So as you can see, this is my main instrument, but I had to put in some response kind of instrument too. So this is the call and this is the response that is coming from Massive. And as you can see, this is a heavily bandpass filtered kind of bass sound that I love so much. So as you can see, call and response, call and response. That is very important if you want to make fat, interesting and engaging kind of, melodies or leads or whatever to your intros. And all the other instruments there are just fillers. Actually, there is another response instrument there that is coming from the synths part, and this wow pad. And all together with the bass, they sound so cool. Anyway, so let me deactivate all the other sounds that we just discovered. So the other sounds, I have a very tiny FM8 plucky kind of instrument. So I don't want to fool you, this is coming from my half-time sample pack for Loopmasters, and I put here the FM8 version of that, so the original patch that I made in FM8, you know, to have everything in the same place. So I just play around with this loop to create this kind of sound that adds some little rhythm to your intro. I have this, I would say, drone kind of sound under the whole intro stuff that adds some, like, I would say, a little introduction again that I will build up with other sounds, like, as you can see, ambient pad and cat pad and everything else in the next section. But basically I started this one, but I started the intro with this pad that is very mystic and I love it. And I added a layer that is a Foley layer that is, I would say, very important. All together with that pad, that droney pad, they sound great. Because this is just boring. And some effect that to start with. But this is just regular effect, it's not that important, and again, this is a sample from forward back. So let me jump to the next section. So this part is where I built everything up and it gets to the climax of the intro. But before I do that, I introduced a bass pad along with a drone pad. So this is how I introduced the next section, where we get to the plucky lead and all the other instruments. So let's start with the main pad. So that is the musical part, I would say, of the second part. This is how it sounds. So the main workaround is having some very nice pads and a very deep bass. This is, well, what makes the sound and just do the job for you. Let's go through of them. I have the main drone pad, the bass pad. I have an ambient pad, and as you can see, in the second half of the second part, or part B or section B, I dropped it up by 1 octave, and that creates an even bigger tension when we get to the end of this intro part. So this is the pad itself. So I haven't even done anything else that raising the octave of this pad, and it instantly created some extra tension, I would say. I have another pad called the cat pad. There is some weird low frequencies here for some reason I haven't heard previously. Let me just quickly kill it. By the way, all these pads are coming from my Loopmaster packs called Cloud Ambient or something like that. You know, I made some very nice pads and other atmospheres based on, like, the imagery of clouds. So this is a cat pad. I don't know why I call it pad, but because it's meowing. Okay, and I have a distorted bass pad. This is very important. This gives the fundamentals of the pads, of the pad section, I would say. And we already talked about the wow pad. But by the way, the main color of this sound is given by the wow 2 filter and the bandpass filter inside operator. So this is the main pad. It just, as you can see, we have some saw waves, square waves, and all these are modulated by a simple saw. This is all, but with some bandpass filtering and the wow filter. Okay, so I have another important part here that again gives some very nice rhythm, I would say, or some interest in the background that you know, you listen to it and you don't even know what is there and you don't really recognize it until I mute it. Let me show it to you. So this is actually an important sound or important loop that I made for the intro. And this is how it sounds. This is a combination of lots of different cuts from, again, my half-tone pack. As you can see, I used almost only my half-tone packs with some edits and stuff to create this very crazy, like, whatever kind of loop. I can't really name the style what this is, but it sounds incredible. Like, I really love it. But as I'm hiding it in the background of this introduction, I think it gives lots of very nice, interesting sounds to explore. Okay, and the same thing is the hey vocals. Again, I'm hiding these in the background to add even more rhythm to it or more groove to it. You know, you can hear the fourths. But as we get to the end, I changed the tone of that, so it is transposed by the 9 semitones. And when I get to this section, as you can see, I changed the color, I changed the formant. Complex Pro is selected for the warp mode, and in this section it is the formants are pulled back, and in this section it is on full, so we don't have the chipmunk effect when we get to the end of this section. You don't even hear what is happening, but you can definitely hear that something is changing, and that is the point here. You have lots of millions of different little sounds that, you know, change when you get to, for example, to the end of this section, or when you want to flip something. And these little edits, these little changes can create lots of tension, I would say, in all of it. Okay, I introduce one more sound so you can hear the plucky lead. But this section is empty, so I wanted again a call and response kind of thing to this section of the build up or of the intro, and this is why I made this ARP little thing. I love it. By the way, it's very, very simple. So this is just a square wave modulated by a sine wave with extra harmonics on chorus 2 and some effects, and basically this is all. But it creates a very nice response to the plucky lead. Okay, cool, and there is one more thing. I have some drums. Well, these are basically just percussion sounds. They sound like this. Some very heavily filtered trap percussion sounds, or trap percussion that I made, a loop that I made for a sample pack, and another loop from my half-tone pack. Again, giving some rhythm to this very paddy, very airy intro. Again, you don't necessarily recognize these sounds in the background, but if I kill them, you definitely hear that something is missing. So these are again very important additions to keep some rhythm to the intro. You don't want to have a very flowy and very airy intro on itself. You definitely want to add some quarters or something like that, you know, to again keep up with the flow of the song. So as you can hear, I have millions of different sounds here. It is very easy to overdo them, but if you use a Sound Smart and you know what sounds put where, you can build up very, very crazy intros and very crazy atmospheres, I would say. So always keep the place for each sound and don't layer too much of them on the same frequency, on the same tone, on the same color. Otherwise you will just get muddy and a very chaotic output. Okay, so if you are curious, you can peep into this project on my Patreon and click here for my academy for awesome start to finish courses. I was the Letsynthesize Academy. Peace!